You've entered BOOKSTORM with Kristen Civiletto and me, Chris Storm. This is a podcast devoted to best-selling books that matter, books that make a difference. We're diving down deep with beloved authors about their stories. We're exposing hot-button topics and heartfelt themes, the issues that affect each of us in our own lives, as siblings, parents, partners, friends, as human beings. We're braving new ideas, fresh thoughts, hard lessons, and important truths. Those kinds of things that stay with us long after we turn the last page and close the book. Well, welcome back to BOOKSTORM Podcast. Fiction lovers literally all over the world, 80 countries. I think we're up to 1,700 cities in all 50 states, Kristen. And you know the reason why. We're bringing you great authors like the one we have here with us today. You've seen the book. You know her name. We have one wrong word. I've got to do the thing for you YouTube watchers. With Hank Phillippi Ryan, we're thrilled to have you here with us, Hank. This book has exploded on the market. Kristen and I loved it, and we can't wait to dive down deep with you.
And we're finished. You loved it. It's exploded. That's all we need to say. Thank you. I'm so honored to be with you today and talking to you all. I love your show. And I love how you really, you need to understand, and I know you do, how just marvelous it is and reassuring it is and full of joy it is to talk to people who really understand the book, who really get it, who really think about it. I worked for a year, more than a year on this book, in solitude, wondering what people would think about it, wondering whether people would understand it. And to be here with you and know that what you think about it is just, it makes me so full of joy. I'm really grateful.
That is very sweet of you to say. We know it is very hard-earned and well-deserved that has brought you to this point. You've created something that has touched everyone's heart who has read this book in a different way. And before we begin, I just want to tell our listeners a little bit about you, because a lot of people pick up the book or want to read it, but you've got a wonderful bio and history that we should share. So Hank Phillippi Ryan is a USA Today best-selling author of 15 psychological thrillers. That is an amazing accomplishment. She is winner of the most prestigious awards in the genre, 5 Agathas, 5 Anthonys, and the coveted Mary Higgins Clark Award. That is quite an accomplishment. She's also an on-air investigative reporter for Boston WHDH-TV with 37 Emmys and dozens more journalism honors. Why are we not surprised? The national book critics call her a superb and gifted storyteller and a master of suspense. Yes, we couldn't agree more. I have to say, David Baldacci, who is a good friend of BOOKSTORM Podcast, B.A. Paris, also a friend of BOOKSTORM Podcast. Then you also had an endorsement by Mary Kubica, friend of BOOKSTORM, who's been on our show. All love this book. David sums it up best. He says, a story with all the goods. Buckle up and read. B.A. Paris says, a gripping roller coaster of a read. This is Hank at her very best. Yes, you did it again in a big and powerful way. We're very excited for you. We can't wait to dive down.
Thank you. Can you imagine sending the book to those icons in the industry and then just crossing your fingers that they love it? And it just makes me burst into tears when I got those endorsements from those people that I've been reading for years and years and admiring for years and years. So it's marvelous to be part of this world.
Well, that is very humbling of you, because you are an icon in this world. And I love that about you. I want to tell our listeners, when we received this book from Hank, Kristen and I had a wonderful personalized message enclosed, which we do not get often. We really treasured that. Thank you for keeping it so personal and so down to earth.
My pleasure. That's what this is about, isn't it, though? Meeting people who love reading and love books and who love to talk about it. And then you two spreading the word to the community. I'm in awe of all the people that are listening to this. So you all must be so proud and happy with what you do.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Now, as Chris mentioned, we're here to talk about your new release, One Wrong Word. And I like to give the listeners a summary of what's happening in the book without giving away any spoilers, I promise. And that's a little hard to do in this story. And if you want to add anything at the end, please be our guest and do so. Now, in your story, Arden Ward is a crisis management expert. And as part of her profession, she knows that the wrong word at any time could potentially destroy a reputation. Now she's the victim of somebody's wrong word. And she's been wrongly accused of having an affair with a very powerful client. She's been given an ultimatum, and she has 2 weeks to work with a new client and potentially salvage her reputation and even protect her future going forward. Now, Cordelia Bannister hires her in that 2 week period to work with her husband, Ned. Ned is a Boston real estate mogul, and he was just acquitted in a criminal trial for a drunk driving incident where a young man was killed. And his reputation, though, is still in shambles. The family is being impacted. He's innocent, but they are suffering. Arden steps in to help. And as she starts digging into the facts, there's a lot more going on than she at first realized, and some things aren't even making sense. Then another car crash puts Ned right back into the spotlight. The more Arden tries to untangle this truth, the more that she realizes, could she be helping a killer? So we have all kinds of fascinating themes that emerge in this story, but it is fun and thrilling and deep. Did you want to add anything to that
I think
backdrop?
it's so interesting, and it's really fun to hear you tell that précis of the story. The key is that Ned Bannister, this powerful Boston real estate mogul, has been acquitted by a jury of a drunk driving fatality, acquitted by a jury. But no matter that the jury found him not guilty, the court of public opinion, the powerful court of public opinion, still thinks that Ned Bannister is a killer. And that has ruined his life. And his wife's life and the lives of his two adorable children. So Arden, who's trying to solve and manage a crisis in her own personal life, is given that 2 weeks, exactly as you say, Kristen, to salvage Ned Bannister's reputation and to use her skill with words to persuade the world that Ned Bannister is really a good guy and bring this shattered family back together, give them their life back. But as the truth begins to emerge, that's when Arden's doubts emerge as well. And she wonders if she's been assigned the job of protecting a murderer. So it's sort of two smart people facing off in a high stakes psychological cat and mouse game to prove their truth about a devastating crime. But which character is the cat? And which character is the mouse? And that is One Wrong Word.
No, that's excellent. And those themes we are going to dive into because even just the narrative aspect of what you were saying with your background in news, I cannot wait to talk to you about that. Chris, do you want to kick us off?
I'll tell you, I have to say for our listeners, it's a little tease if you haven't read it yet. Mind blowing and mind boggling. That's what I say. I loved every twist and turn. And at some point in this mystery, I suspected everyone except for the fish.
We'll talk about
that. A certain character in the story, I'm not going to say who, told lies about quite insignificant matters. Another character refrained from telling the truth and stayed silent about insignificant matters. These actions, or we could call them non-actions, lent them untrustworthy and suspicious. I always love to equivocate these fiction books with the real world because I don't believe there is any such thing as real fiction. So, what is it about your characters and all of us in the real world that nudges us to lie about such unimportant, trivial things? How does it become habitual and when does it become dangerous?
Yeah, well, let's talk about the truth first of all. What is the truth? And this is something that I study and delve into. This is something that I've cared about in my 43 years as an investigative reporter. What is the truth? And there is a truth. There is a true thing. There is a thing that really has happened. But there's also personal truth, emotional truth, legal truth, the jury's truth, the actual truth, what we wish were true, what we want to be true, what we try to persuade someone else is true, what we allow ourselves to believe is true, all those kinds of truths. And I always think there are three sides to every story: yours, mine, and the truth. And those can all be different. So as an investigative reporter and as a writer of psychological fiction, that one's relationship to the truth is endlessly fascinating to me. Now, you remember that this book, Talk About the Truth, this book is written from 3 points of view. Arden Ward, the crisis management expert; Cordelia Bannister, the damaged, beautiful, mysterious wife of the mogul Ned Bannister; and Monel Churchwood, the district attorney who is obsessed, who thinks Ned Bannister is guilty and should be in prison, and is obsessed with finding him guilty and putting him there. So these three women all want something, but only one can succeed. And each of the women sees the world through their own eyes, through their own passions, through their own desires, through their own needs, through their own selfishness, and through their own vulnerabilities. So we as readers get to see the world through all three of their points of view. So we as readers can decide what is true, and we can judge Monel and Arden and Cordelia through what the other characters are saying about them. But the cool part of a 3 point of view book, like One Wrong Word is that for dramatic irony, we, the readers, you, the readers, and me, the author, we know more than the characters know. So you two, you readers, are gauging the situation because you know more than Arden or Cordelia or Monel knows. So you can say, oh my goodness, that's not true, or she's not telling the truth, or she didn't answer your question, or why are you believing that? I know that's not true. But the character doesn't know that. And this novel, One Wrong Word, is the process of each character figuring out what the real truth is, with Arden Ward as the lead character, because we love Arden. We know she did not have an affair with the client. She would never do that. And why is someone saying that about her? So she's struggling to discover the truth about this horrible crime as another horrible crime then occurs. And she's trying to figure out, as I said, what's really going on when her own life is in shambles as well. So we as readers get to see the big picture, but the characters only see that one little slice of their lives. And I love that juggle, and I love that cat and mouse game, and I love how each of us gets to root for a different person at a different time, because we too are unraveling the truth. And we all, we tell lies because they don't feel like lies to us. They feel like what we deserve, what we want, what should be true. How much does it really matter? Some people might say, if I make the world sound a little better or a little worse, or if I sort of cast aspersions on another person to make you dislike that person as well, or make you like that person as well. As you were saying, that's reality. That's how we all exist, that chess game of our lives when we're all trying to win. And I ask myself at every moment in these stories, what does this character want, and how far will they go to get it? And a psychological thriller like this is watching people discover that they may have no limit to what they'll do to get what they want.
Oh, that's a very little bit of wisdom right there. We saw in each of these three different perspectives a set goal and purpose that they must achieve. And in so doing, they're willing to lie, maybe cheat, maybe a little scandal involved in there. What happens when we, even in the real world, lose our sense of the present in order to achieve something? Nothing else matters but getting to that designated point. We give up a lot of ourselves and we start to look guilty. We start to look dishonest, but we don't see it in our own self. We can become lost.
Because to us, it's not dishonest. To us, It's what we deserve. It's what we should have. It's what the world has failed to offer us. We feel sometimes that the world is unfair, that we don't have good luck. And why does everybody else get the happiness and the love and the luck and the money and the success and the fame? And we don't. Why? Why is that? And we think, well, maybe they know something I don't know. Maybe they're lying or cheating or stealing or persuading or manipulating or paying someone off or making a deal with someone. And maybe, maybe that means it's not bad. Maybe that means I could do that too. And so we convince ourselves that we're the good person, no matter where we are in the spectrum of good and evil. We convince ourselves that we're good, that we deserve this, and whatever we need to do to get what we want is okay. Look at that in business world. The people are smart and ruthless, and what allows us as readers to decipher who's good and who's bad is when we begin to understand why they are doing what they're doing. Do they make the benevolent, benign, helpful, kind, loving decision, the unselfish decision, or do they make the self-centered, venal, money-grubbing, illegal decision to get what they want? And that is what a good story is a series of choices that characters have to make. And it is their character, their personality, their psychology is revealed in the choices that they make. And as a result of making a choice, something else happens in their lives and they have to make another choice. And we as readers watch them go down that path for better or for worse. I mean, I don't like graphic violence in novels, so I just don't put it in mine. I mean, they're murder mysteries. They're fast-paced, propulsive, page-turning murder mysteries. If you like Lisa Scottolini, Lisa Unger, Lisa Jewell, Lisa Gardner, all the Lisas, Lisa, and Hank, it's that kind of book. But I do think that words are the most deadly weapon there can be in some cases. Words can ruin your life. Words can ruin your reputation, the power of persuasion and the power of manipulation. And words are a deadly weapon that each of us possesses. Each of us carries every day that deadly weapon of words. And it's our decision whether to use those words, whether to use that power for good or evil. And everyone in one wrong word is making that decision.
Excellent.
Hank, I want to pick up on something you just said about the power of words. In today's world of social media, I think reputations can be damaged even more quickly. And I wanted to ask you about crisis management professionals because can they adequately repair a reputation? Do they change the narrative and use that social media leverage to do so? Can you comment on that?
Well, again, it goes back to the essence of our discussion is what is truth? What is real? If there's a narrative that a crisis management expert wants us to believe, of course they can shepherd people into revamping how they think about a thing. Okay, let me tell you, remember a couple of weeks ago or whenever it was when the Grammys were on, and Taylor Swift came up to accept an award from Celine Dion. And do you remember this? And there was a moment when Taylor Swift just took the award from Celine Dion and seemed to turn her back on Celine Dion. And you could almost hear the gasp on social media. Oh my goodness, Taylor Swift, she's disrespecting Celine Dion, the queen of us all. Within a minute, there were pictures on the internet, on X and on Facebook and on Instagram of Celine Dion and Taylor Swift backstage hugging like they were the best friends in the world. Well, that's a crisis management expert. That's someone who took Taylor Swift aside and said, you go stand by Celine Dion and put this picture on the internet. And that brouhaha went away. Nobody talks about that anymore. Everybody decided, Taylor Swift was distracted and happy and thrilled and delighted and, and nervous. And she never meant to turn her back on Celine Dion. She would never do that. Look, they're friends. And we all thought, okay, we believe that. We believe that truth now. We believe that truth now. But I think so what is reality is terrifyingly nebulous sometimes. And it's all about what we believe. So crisis management people Movie stars use them, political candidates use them, of course. Executives use them, business executives use them. They're the people who come out and say, don't worry, there's no poison in the Tylenol, like that happened 30 years ago. There's no poison in the Tylenol, everybody's safe, it's all fine. So does that ever erase how we feel when we pick up a bottle of absolutely perfectly safe Tylenol? I don't know. Do you think about it? It's all a process. It's all how many steps can someone take to try to fix something? And every single one of us believes what we believe. We pick and choose the things that we believe and put that in our Rubik's Cube in our head and make the world be the way that we want it to be. And you know, that struggle for the truth may be futile. I mean, there is a truth, but often now the truth is what we want to believe. I've been on book tour for the past 6 weeks, and I had an Uber driver. I had an Uber driver say to me, and I forget what we were even talking about. The Uber driver says to me, "Ma'am, the truth doesn't care what you believe." And I thought, and there you have it. Yeah, wisdom from the mouth of the Uber driver. I thought that was so true.
Absolutely. And I love what you said about how far are people willing to go to shape those narratives or to achieve a goal, because that really brings up these notions of power and money and having the ability to use these tools to fashion a narrative.
Oh,
And
sure, because the people with more power and more money
yeah,
do have the power to change how we feel about things. And that's what every one of my books is about, including One Wrong Word, especially One Wrong Word, is about the balance of power and the disequilibrium that happens in our lives when someone tries to take our power. And we watch Arden Ward in One Wrong Word be put into a state of, you know, the rug is completely pulled out from under her on page 1. Everything that she believes in the world that's true and right and good, everything that stabilized her. She loves her job. She's great at her job. She loves what she does. She sincerely feels that she is helping make the world be a better place. And she is doing that. And we love her. And suddenly someone has started a false rumor about her, and they are willing to murder her reputation in order to get what they want. And I thought that's happened to me. It's absolutely happened to me. And that is such a powerful, life-changing moment that I wanted to have people, I mean, every single place that I've gone on book tour for the past 6 weeks. And I'm so happy to say that the book just went into second printing. So hooray. Every single place I've been on book tour in the past 2 weeks, someone or someone's has come up to me and said, you know, this is exactly what happened to me. I've had exactly the experience that Arden did. Thank you so much for writing about this. And it's been an experience for me that really has shown me the powerful truth in One Wrong Word, that these kinds of things, what happened to Arden, really does happen to people. And I know because it happened to me. And now I know because I'm talking to so many people on the road.
yeah. And I appreciate you sharing that because, we see ourselves in a lot of these characters, but that is an emotional one that I haven't seen addressed very frequently in fiction at all. But many women have experienced this. And so I thank you for doing that. And I know your experience imprinted something on you that you have carried this with you for a while.
Well, it's interesting because I don't know what's happening next in my novel until I write the next sentence and the next scene and the next chapter. I don't know. It's always a surprise every day what happens. So I knew I was writing about rumor and gossip and scandal and revenge and how powerless we feel when someone says something about us, some ruinous thing that's not true. I mean, that's happened to all of us. And how do we handle that? Do we laugh it off? Do we defend ourselves? Do we ignore it? Do we fight back? What do we do? So I'm writing this story, which I'm loving, and I'm about a quarter of the way through. And my brain, my subconscious somehow kind of downloaded a memory in my brain. And I stopped in my tracks as I was writing. And I thought, oh, is this where that came from? I mean, I knew I was writing about rumor and gossip and scandal and betrayal, but I didn't realize that I was writing about myself. I was actually writing about myself. And it kind of stopped me. And I have to admit to you that I almost didn't write about it because I thought, this is so personal and this is so painful that do I go ahead and do this? And then I thought, it's fiction. I'm not writing about myself. I'm writing about something that's universal. And so Go ahead. So quickly, when I was 19, I worked in a political campaign in Indiana, and none of these names is real except for mine. Worked in a political campaign in Indiana, and I was a worker bee. I was a gopher. I was the lowest person in the class system on this political campaign, and I loved it. I loved it. I was going to change the world. I was going to make a difference. I was going to be part of the reason that the world was made better. And I was walking down the hall. Remember, I was 19. This was so long ago, 50 years ago. And walking down the hall, and I heard two campaign directors talking, two guys who were campaign managers. And one of them said, have you heard about Hank and Jim? How Jim really has a huge crush on Hank. Jim was the campaign manager, not his real name. So I'm in the hall, I'm overhearing this, and I'm completely flummoxed because I don't know anything about this. I don't know anything about a crush. I don't know anything about Jim having a crush on me. This is completely news to me. And the second man says, yeah, everybody's talking about it. Jim really is madly in love with her. And if Jim's wife finds out about it, it's really going to be a problem. And I thought, Jim's wife finds out about what? There's nothing. This is completely out of the clear blue to me. And the first guy says something like, yeah, I've really been thinking about this. And I think the only solution is to fire Hank. And I thought, fire me? I think Jim's your problem. I don't think I'm the problem. But I was so, my world changed. I'm babbling now because the memory is just so difficult. My world changed. The rug was pulled out from under me. I was shocked and surprised and innocent. A 19-year-old. I was the 19-year-old worker bee. I was not the center of a scandal in any way. And I didn't know what to do. I was completely powerless and baffled and sad and worried and upset. And so fast forward, nobody got fired. I didn't get fired. Jim didn't get fired. The campaign was over. They lost. Haha. But I was left with this sort of festering sorrow and regret that I had not stood up for myself, that I had not fought back on this, that I had allowed them the possibility of, they were willing to murder my reputation in order to get what they want. I was the expendable one. I was the vulnerable one. I was the girl that they could just that they could just brush under the rug and get rid of. They didn't need me, but they needed Jim. So they were going to protect him and murder my reputation. And so when I started writing this book, I started thinking, I'm just going to let Arden say all the things I should have said and let Arden do all the things that I should have done. So it's actually this book. It's a fast-paced, page-turning thriller, a murder mystery. But underneath, the sort of theme is a way for me to send a little bit of a love letter to my 19-year-old self saying, here's what you should have said, sister. Here's what you should have done. And to have Arden be able to say those kinds of things was really a joy for me to sort of knit up the raveled edge of my own history by letting it be repaired. I repaired it in fiction. I repaired my past in fiction. And it was really a fun thing to do and revealing, I think, on so many levels to so many people, including myself.
Yeah.
And,
It's
it's a love letter to
beautiful.
all women because for all of us, and we were talking before the show, we can relate to this. If you are a young woman in business of any kind out there working, we were persecuted. We were not taken seriously. We were not given equal pay. We did not have the promotion. So I personally can relate to this. I think Kristen thinks she can too. And this must be the reason why this story is resonating with so many people. Let me take it a little step further. In order for you to have been manipulated, bullied, persecuted, there was some psychological manipulation going on there. Maybe not that even you were aware of, but things that were being said about you behind your back. And I thought this was interesting in the story, the subtle nuances of the narcissist mind, the psychological manipulation. There was one character in your story, I can't say who, he had the uncanny habit of never answering a question directly. I wanted to strangle him a couple times. He was constantly sidetracked or temporarily changing the subject, the reader started to wonder, is he just lightheaded and scatterbrained, or is this a purposeful strategy? And as this happened, Arden began to lose control of the situation and become destabilized. See how easily this can happen, this subtle psychological manipulation. Can you expand upon how these small things, these little minuscule things, when compiled together, can be a huge form of abuse?
Well, that's the classic gaslighting. I mean, that comes from the Charles Boyer movie. That's the classic gaslighting, is that you can carefully, subtly, quietly destabilize someone by making the world seem a little bit different, suggesting that perhaps they forgot something, or perhaps that they misunderstood something, or perhaps they didn't do something they were supposed to do, or that they are lacking in some way, or that they misunderstood something. I mean, I think that we as readers in this novel, as we were talking earlier, we have the joy of hearing from 3 points of view. So we get a bigger picture of, quote, the situation than Arden does. Arden is smart and savvy and wise and damaged now, and she's doing the best she can, and she only knows what she knows, and she only hears what she hears. And she is vulnerable now to someone who has her future in his hands. He can change her life with the stroke of a pen. He can change her life. So she's trying to make sure that her life stays together, that she saves her job in some way. She's trying to uncover the truth with new people in her lives, just like we all do every day. When we have clients, or we do stories, or we do interviews, or we meet new people, don't we gauge them every day, how they sit, what they say, how they look, whether they answer our questions, whether they don't, whether they change the subject? I mean, crisis management experts train clients not to answer questions that they don't want to answer. Crisis management experts can train clients to change the subject, to make it appear that they're answering the question, to answer half the question, and then, twist it into another kind of a question. So everything that was happening, everything that people were saying, was absolutely under the control of the person who was saying it. It's just how the answers are received that becomes important in the story. Does Arden notice that this person isn't answering her questions? Sure, she does. Sure, she does. Is Arden noticing that certain questions remain unanswered? Is Arden noticing that a person says one thing to one person and says another thing to someone else? Sure, she does. But what should she do about it? That's the problem. Who does she believe? These are new people in her life, and she is risking her life and her career on that she makes the right choice in judging these people. And we all have to do that every day. And what if someone says one wrong word? If we make the wrong decision, our entire life comes crashing down. So at every moment, everything is the highest stakes possible: truth and freedom and justice and life and death on every page in this story. And every decision that Arden makes, and every decision that everybody else makes, creates that tension of the story. So there's conflict on every page, and a decision has to be made on every page. And every decision, one wrong word could ruin Arden's life. And that's what she's up against. So it's tough. She has a high stakes, high level conflict going on throughout, and her life and her career are at stake on every page.
Why I loved her so much is she's super smart, she's super savvy, and she's tackling this case, trying to literally help someone. And we see her become discombobulated and maybe a little off kilter, because we always think to ourselves, oh, that would never happen to me. I'm too smart to fall for any of that. I would see right through all of these things. You showed the reader how easily we could all be sort of manipulated and led astray.
Yes, exactly. You're so 100% right. Because we as readers in this novel have the unusual power to see into someone else's head. So we're in Cordelia's head, we're in Monel's head, and we know what they're thinking, but Arden doesn't. Arden doesn't. So we think she's lying. That's not true. That isn't what happens. That's not how she really feels. That's not what she's really thinking. But Arden doesn't know that. But we know that. And we watch Arden, and we're on the journey with Arden as she tries to navigate these incredibly scary, dangerous, high stakes waters and make the right decision. And, again, is Cordelia really reliable? Is Monel really reliable? They're reliable for what they want. And the reader, the savvy reader, knows enough to know, here's their motive. Here's why they're saying this. Here's how I should understand this. And Arden may or may not get that because she's not privy to the same information that we are.
Hey, I want to ask you, what advice would you give young women who are in these situations where there has been a wrong word that has harmed them and they've internalized that and maybe feel some shame about it?
Oh, golly, isn't that so interesting? Because I'm of such another era. This happened to me 50 years ago. And the way a woman would respond 50 years ago to a situation like this is so different from how the wonderful young women of today, who have so much more confidence and so much more agency, and so much more feeling of their own power, to stand up and be confident. And I should have said, I heard what you said, and that's not true. I mean, just call them on it in a professional, calm, confident, empowered way. Don't let anyone take your power. Don't let anyone take your power. And I think today, I think the same kind of disequilibrium happens in professional situations, in every situation. But I think that I'm sort of crossing my fingers that this is true, that the consciousness raising of people has evolved in a way that at least people attempt not to have this happen, and that women especially, but any gender, it's not just women, I think, any gender will stand up and say, you're making me uncomfortable. That's not true. I need to stop you right there. You have it all wrong. Or let me tell you the real story. So I think it's all about confidence and empowerment and professionalism, and making each of us be equal to the other, no matter, even if there is, and there always will be, an imbalance in the power. We need to make sure that we have our own power and that we don't lose that, and we don't let someone take that from us. What do you think?
Excellent. No, I think that's excellent advice. And I have a adult daughter, and Chris does as well. And so we see some of these differences in this generation in terms of they'll speak their mind. And I'm proud of them for that. And I really appreciate what you had to say. And, Hick, this has been a fantastic interview. This book is like you, it is thrilling and vivacious, and there's a depth and a genuineness. And that is something that comes through loud and clear.
Oh.
And before we let you go, can you give us a little sneak peek? What's on your radar? What you're up to next, writing
Oh,
wise?
sure. Let me quickly tell you, though, we were talking earlier about the book face. And
Oh,
We
yeah.
got to do it. We have to do it because it's fun. I see it all over social media. It's very cool.
And you see how it works for all of us, how, this is Arden, but it could be any of us. And to your point, exactly. That's why we made the cover look this way, because when you hold that book up to yourself, you could imagine, this could happen to me. This could happen to me. I am Arden Ward. And I've heard that so powerfully from people across the country. I've had men hold their faces up to it. I've had dogs. I've had people send me pictures of dogs, and it kind of works. But when it comes to women, this is such a relatable story. And I bet every one of your listeners who reads this will say, yes, this has happened to me. And this is what I did as a result, or this is what I should have done, or yay. I mean, I want you to feel at the end of the book, I want you to feel like, yeah, this is exactly what should have happened. That's my goal. And quickly, I'll tell you what the next book is. It's called All This Could Be Yours. It comes out next June. Knock on wood, I should be working on it right now. All This Could Be Yours, about a debut author with a surprise bestseller who goes out on a grueling national book tour with this best-selling novel, only to discover that she has a stalker who's out to ruin her career and destroy the family she had to leave back home, all because of a Faustian bargain that she didn't know she'd made. So it's called All This Could Be Yours, and it's coming out in June.
Oh, that sounds so intriguing. That's a great title, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad
Sounds
to hear that.
great.
That's good to know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listeners, you're going to want to connect with Hank Phillippi Ryan, and she is on Facebook, on X. You can find her on Pinterest, on Instagram, and also at her website. And I'm going to spell this out for our listeners: HankPhillippiryan.com. And
Hank
I'm sure
Phillippi
she would
Ryan.
love
We
it.
have we have all the spellings. I think our domain is all the misspellings. So just go for Hank Phillippi Ryan. Any way you spell it, you'll find me, and sign up for my newsletter. There are lots of fun things and inside scoop and giveaways all the time on my newsletter. So I'd love to see you all on social media.
Oh, absolutely. Wonderful. Well, we hope you come back to talk about your next book. And we just loved having you. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, my complete pleasure. I had a terrific time. Thank you for your marvelous and thoughtful questions.
It's been
Absolutely.
wonderful. The book was amazing. Just as much fun talking to you today. Thanks so much. Kristen, wow, what an interview with Hank Phillippi Ryan. And yes, this is why this book hits us so close to home. I loved your question about standing up for your own moral character despite gossip or rumors and lies, and refusing to feel shame about that. Can you expand on that a little bit, where that may have been coming from?
Yeah, I think that sometimes when you are involved in this type of interaction, and I'm going to say sometimes as in maybe 2 decades ago, you feel like it's your fault. You brought this on. There was something that you did in the professional setting that wasn't professional enough. And so you internalize those feelings and it makes you feel like there's something wrong with you. And, I really appreciated what she had to say about taking back that power. If you have those thoughts, have them for 2 minutes and then you flip that around. And then the next thought is, okay, how will I address this? What can I do to dispel these kinds of rumors and to deal with them head on? And it's not always easy. Your career might be on the line. You could lose your job very quickly. But I think taking back that power is something that more of us need to understand how to do that and want to do that. What do
Yeah.
you think?
I like that you said we've changed from 20 years ago when this happened, because I think you're right. I want to believe you're right. The younger generation is too strong to tolerate this nonsense. And you're correct about this. You may lose your job. You may lose some friends. When you stand up for truth and who you believe you are,
Yeah.
I always also believe this: whether or not people are on your side or not in this scheme, whatever this is, your character, your moral code and character will shine forth, because people who are liars and abusers, it comes out in everything they do sooner or later. But people who are truthful, of a higher standing moral character, it's just going to keep showing. Sometimes you need to come out and voice it and prove it. Sometimes you need to just sit back and let time take its toll, because the truth of who people are usually do show itself over time. And
Yeah.
what did you think about this power of social media that we were talking about, and the story that Hank brought up? Yes, I do remember that very well. Now, this nonsensical story about the princess photoshopping her family picture, it is absolutely insane, the level that the media take these stories. And why do we fall into this so quick? What is there about us that listen, the media would be nothing if it wasn't for we listeners tuning in and wanting more.
Absolutely. Well, I think on social media, there's things that just get everybody's attention because it's a good diversion. And especially in today's world where there's a lot of heavy things going on, whether it's politically or war, I can see where people need that little diversion and will generate one and gin one up even. But also the social media aspect makes it more important too to take back that power that we were talking about. Because I agree with you, back before social media was such a big thing in our lives, you could let your character shine through and eventually people would see the truth. But now those narratives become cemented in the collective mind of people, and they may not be accurate or truthful. And it's very hard to beat that reputation. So, social media can be very helpful or damaging in that regard. And I think you got to stay on top of it if you can.
Mhm. I like that answer too. I have been reading a lot of World War II books and watching a documentary the other day, and I can't help but thinking and hoping that some of that would not have occurred if we had social media. If we were talking behind the scenes, this is going on, beware, look out. In a cumulative population, I'm talking about more than individually, I think that's where social media can help. But I also think maybe we're becoming a little skeptical of social media. Like right away, I look at some stories and think that's a little bit of nonsense. When are we going to hit our peak? I hope we're smart enough to know we've been in with this social media for a good while now. Here comes AI. We don't know what to expect with that. AI written letters, AI written college essays. We don't know what to expect. I hope we're a little smarter to see the truth behind people. And I think your actions and your words and your actions moving forward speak louder than what anyone else can ever say about you. And how does that old saying go? What Susie says about Sally speaks way more about Susie than it ever did about Sally. Let's hope that stays true too.
I hope so too.
Such a
And
great book.
it really is. And even just having her news background, I think, gives it that additional level of interest because she has probably seen everything in her career. Well, listeners, we are so excited about who we have coming up next. I'm just going to give you a partial list of names: Mary Kubica, Christopher Reich, Emiko Jean, Bonnie Jo Campbell, J.D. Barker, Dervla McTiernan, Scott Carson, who also writes as Michael Carita, Kate White, Lisa Wingate, B.A. Paris, Ramona Ostebel, Jill Shalvis. We are excited. These books are fantastic. We want you to, of course, stay on the radar with us. Find us on our website at bookstormpodcast.com. You can find us on Facebook, on Instagram. We are on TikTok. We are on YouTube. We have all kinds of videos that you'll love to go back and find some of your favorite authors. And we hope you do that. And we're grateful for you spreading the word. Until next time, listeners, one of the best ways to brave the storm is to dive down deep into life-changing fiction.